Number one gone, two number twos gone, two number threes out. Just amazing. I tried to think through this question that you posed. The landscape of March Madness has changed from a couple different directions, and just follow me on this. Item one, everybody has got three-point shooters now in college basketball. There's so many great young kids who come from the high school ranks into the collegiate ranks who can shoot long distance. The three is the great equalizer in the game. You may not have a 15-man roster that can go to war. You might not have the bigs. Maybe you don't even have as many athletes as you need. But if you got threes, guys who can put it in the hole from the next area code, it'll keep you in games. And I think that's one of the unique things what March Madness has become. There's a lot of guys who can shoot threes. Secondly, transfer portal. I think everybody's got players now. The great kids that went to the Power 5 schools that didn't crack a starting lineup now have the opinion, if I'm not playing, I'm not staying. Mm-hmm. And they're transferring. And they're going to places all over the planet so they get the chance to show their wares and play a lot of basketball. That's why we got March Madness the way it is, with so many bottom feeders beating the top-rated teams. So I think the transfer portal has really impacted college basketball and March Madness. Thirdly, the one-and-done era, at least for right now, is off the table. Remember, the last 5 years or so, the tournament was always marquee individual players, 18 and 19-year-old freshmen, one and done, playing. As soon as the tournament's over, dropping out of school, filing for the draft. What's changed there, John, the new COVID rule, the extra year of eligibility for all the kids impacted by COVID and all the programs impacted by COVID. You look at the makeup of a lot of these teams, there are fifth and sixth year guys, which means these teams are now built around and molded around veteran players who got all this experience that are making a huge difference. That's a piece of the equation. And the final item I'll mention, I think the concept of college basketball, John, has drastically changed. You look at the makeup of rosters, you watch the games Thursday, Friday in the Sweet 16. There are power players who've come from Europe who play immediately, an enormous number of big men who have now come from programs in Africa who have gone through prep schools that have landed in Division I programs. I think the makeup of college basketball has really been accelerated because of the arrival of, I call them the Dirk Nowitzki types from Europe, and obviously the massive, great big men that have now come through the prep schools from Africa that are playing college hoops. It's a very different game, a lot more quality teams, and it's a different era because I think COVID has impacted the game and given everybody an extra year of eligibility. My thoughts, yours.
Yeah, that's an interesting take, particularly about the international influence. I mean, Nathan Mensah would be one of those guys.
Ghana.
And then what was the Marshall Lonis? Isn't one of his kids playing on one of the teams, I think, as well? So, but to your other point about the one and dones, I always think one and done, I think of Kentucky. And Kentucky, they're out, and a lot of the blue bloods are out. Kansas, Duke, North Carolina, Kentucky, none of them made the Sweet 16. And now we've got programs like San Diego State that are there, and Florida Atlantic, and there's a number of others that we can list. But take a program though like Princeton. I mean, how do they make it? I mean, is it international, or is they just outsmarting everyone on the court?
Well, smarts has got something to do with it, but they got good three-point shooters.
There you go.
And they have no fear. Now, they don't have 7-footers running around there, but they got a bunch of bangers at 6'6" and 6'8" who just crash the boards and play defense at the other end and force turnovers. And so, I mean, it's unique what Princeton has done. Back-to-back wins. I mean, we were excited. Farleigh Dickinson, wow, how's that possible? Then they met their fate, and Princeton just continues to hang tough with them. So for this short window of time, and maybe it'll revert back to one-on-ones when the COVID expiration thing happens. But right now, it's just a very, very different game. And I think the intangible about the Euros and the African players, I think that's really changed the scope of basketball because those guys are going everywhere.
Yeah, I think it's made the sport better because college basketball was so terrific in the 80s and 90s. And then we had the one and dones, and it was like a free agent merry-go-round. But now these programs, they're being built. They've got guys that are sticking around. And now that you're right, the landscape has changed, and it's good for teams in the Mountain West they'll have a shot now.